The faint hum of the coffee machine filled the quiet diner. The smell of burnt toast and fresh brew lingered in the air as Emily, a young waitress in her late 20s, tied her worn-out apron around her waist. Her eyes were heavy with exhaustion, the kind that came not from lack of sleep but from carrying the weight of the world alone. The clock ticked past 6 a.m., and sunlight crept through the dusty blinds, painting golden stripes on the old wooden counter. Emily forced a smile as the first customer walked in. Another day, another shift. She whispered to herself, just make it through today, for Lily. Emily's life had never been kind. 2 years ago, her husband left without a word, leaving her with unpaid bills and a 3-year-old daughter. Since then, every plate she carried and every fake smile she wore was for her little girl. She worked double shifts, sometimes even slept in the diner's back office when she couldn't afford the gas to drive home. Her hands were rough from washing dishes, and her shoes had holes, but she didn't complain. Her only joy was hearing Lily's sweet voice on the phone before bedtime, "Mommy, did you eat?" Every time Emily heard that, her eyes filled with tears, because most nights, she hadn't. It was late afternoon when they walked in, 3 men, loud and arrogant, their laughter echoing through the quiet diner. Emily straightened her apron and approached their booth with her usual politeness. "Good afternoon, gentlemen. What can I get for you today?" she asked softly. One of them smirked, leaning back in his seat. "Serve us, B*TCH, he barked, his voice sharp and cruel. The other 2 burst into laughter. The few customers sitting nearby turned their heads but quickly looked away, pretending not to hear. Emily froze for a second, her heart pounding. Her throat tightened, but she managed a trembling, of course, coming right up. As she turned to the counter, one of them whistled mockingly. "Hey sweetheart, don't forget to smile. You're prettier when you smile." Their laughter followed her like a shadow. Her hands shook as she poured coffee into their cups. The hot liquid spilled slightly, and one of them cursed loudly. "Can't even do your job right, huh?" Emily mumbled an apology, her voice cracking. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away, forcing herself to keep going. She had faced worse, hunger, loneliness, nights when she cried silently so Lily wouldn't hear. But this public humiliation broke something inside her. She walked into the kitchen, leaned against the cold wall, and clutched her chest. For a moment, she wanted to quit, to walk away and never come back. But then she remembered her daughter's laughter, her small hands, her bedtime stories. "For Lily," she whispered again, wiping her tears. When she returned with the plates, her eyes were red but steady. The thugs kept mocking her, unaware that behind that fragile smile was a storm of silent pain, a mother's unspoken strength. And just as her world felt smallest, the sound of roaring engines filled the street outside. Emily looked up, unaware that fate was about to send her the kindness she had long prayed for. The roar of engines grew louder outside the diner, shaking the glass windows. Everyone turned their heads. The 3 thugs exchanged mocking grins. "Great," one of them said, "more troublemakers." The diner door swung open, and 5 bikers walked in, heavy boots, leather jackets, tattoos, and the unmistakable presence that made people step aside. The air seemed to thicken as their boots hit the floor, slow and steady. Emily froze behind the counter, fear flashing in her eyes. Not today, she thought. Please, not more chaos. The leader of the group, a tall man with gray in his beard and a scar near his eyebrow, looked around silently. Then his eyes landed on Emily, her trembling hands, her forced smile, and the half-spilled coffee on the table. He didn't need an explanation. He had seen this before, power against the powerless. The thugs laughed loudly. "Hey, old man," one of them shouted toward the bikers. "This diner's full. Go rev your engine somewhere else." The leader didn't respond. He just walked toward an empty booth near the thugs. The others followed, calm but alert. Emily approached them nervously. What can I get you, sir? The leader gave her a small smile, the kind that carried warmth, not threat. Take your time, ma'am. We're in no rush. It was such a simple sentence, but after hours of insults, it broke her heart. Her lips quivered as she whispered, "Thank you." The leader's eyes softened. He noticed her red eyes, the bruise on her wrist, and the trembling in her voice. He nodded gently, then turned to his men. "Be respectful, boys. The lady's been through enough." The thugs snorted. "Oh please, you playing hero now?" one sneered, leaning back. "We were just having fun. She's paid to serve, right?" The diner fell silent. The biker stood slowly, his leather jacket creaking. His eyes turned cold. "No, son. She's paid to work, not to be disrespected." One of the thugs got up, puffing his chest. "You think you can tell us what to do?" Before he could finish, the biker's massive hand grabbed his wrist, firm, not violent, but enough to make the man wince. The leader leaned closer and said in a calm, dangerous whisper, "You don't talk to a woman like that. Not here, not anywhere." The room was still. The only sound was the low hum of the refrigerator. The thug backed away, muttering under his breath. His friends stared, then quickly threw a few bills on the table and hurried out, their fake confidence melting under the biker's silent stares. Emily stood frozen, her lips parted, not believing what she'd just seen. When the tension eased, the bikers sat back down as if nothing had happened. The leader smiled again, softer now. "Ma'am, can we have some pie and coffee? You look like you could use a break too." Emily tried to laugh, but tears spilled instead. I'm sorry. Thank you." As she served them, the men treated her with quiet respect. "Please, thank you, that's perfect." Small words that felt like healing after hours of cruelty. When they finished their meal, the leader stood, placed a folded $100 bill under his coffee cup, and slipped a small note beneath it. Then he looked at Emily and said gently, "You remind me of my sister. She raised her boy alone too. Don't lose that strength." They left as quietly as they came, engines roaring down the road. When Emily picked up the bill, her hands shook. She unfolded the note. In neat handwriting, it read, "For your daughter, stay strong. The world still has good people." Her tears finally fell freely, not from pain this time, but from gratitude. She pressed the note to her heart and whispered, "Thank you." For the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. The diner felt strangely peaceful after the bikers left. The laughter, the insults, the humiliation, all of it had vanished like a bad dream. The only sound was the soft ticking of the wall clock and the faint hiss of the coffee machine. Emily stood behind the counter, staring at the note in her trembling hand. The words blurred through her tears, "For your daughter, stay strong. The world still has good people." She pressed it to her chest, feeling its warmth like a heartbeat. For the first time in years, someone had seen her pain, and cared. The old cook, Joe, peeked from the kitchen. "You okay, Em?" She smiled weakly, wiping her eyes. "Yeah, Joe. I think I will be." The sun was setting when Emily finally closed up the diner. The streets glowed with orange light, and the breeze carried the faint smell of rain. She walked home with tired steps, her mind still replaying every moment, the insults, the fear, the kindness. Her old shoes splashed through puddles, but she didn't care. She felt lighter somehow, as if the weight on her shoulders had shifted, not gone, but bearable. In her pocket, she kept touching the note again and again, as though afraid it might disappear. When she reached her small apartment, she paused by the door and whispered, "Thank you, whoever you were." Inside, the apartment was dimly lit. Little Lily ran toward her, her tiny arms open wide. "Mommy." Emily dropped to her knees and hugged her tight, breathing in the scent of her daughter's hair, soap, crayons, and innocence. "Did you have dinner, sweetheart?" she asked, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "I waited for you," the little girl said. "I made a sandwich for us." Emily smiled, her eyes shining with tears. "You're my brave girl." They sat together on the old sofa, eating the small sandwich and laughing softly. Emily told her stories about kind strangers and good people, stories she once stopped believing in. Later that night, when Lily fell asleep in her arms, Emily opened the note again under the dim light of a small lamp. The paper was crumpled now, worn by her fingers, but the words still glowed like hope itself. She took a small frame from the shelf, an old photo of her and her late husband, and slipped the note behind the glass. "This is for you too," she whispered. "For what I've learned, that kindness still lives in this world." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but they weren't heavy anymore. They were the kind that wash away pain. The next morning, Emily woke before sunrise. She brewed fresh coffee, humming softly, something she hadn't done in years. When she arrived at the diner, she placed a small paper sign near the counter. "Be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you don't see." The customers noticed. Some smiled, some nodded, and one young girl even said, "That's beautiful." Emily smiled too. Somewhere on the open road, a group of bikers might never know how deeply they changed one woman's life. But in her heart, and in her daughter's eyes, their kindness would live forever. Sometimes heroes don't wear uniforms. Sometimes, they ride motorcycles and carry compassion in silence. And sometimes, one act of kindness is enough to rebuild a broken heart.